looked at what the column builder does for us. We're going to look specifically at some attributes we can set in there. In this case, we're going to start looking at column titles, or in other words, what is displayed at the top of the columns on your reports. All right, in the section of the column builders that I'm referring to, we are talking about how we modify what is called the display name up here. And so whatever we type or rekey in here is what's going to be displayed on the actual report. Remember, I spoke that the original column ID names over here on this side, and as part of the code I wrote when I create the columns for the first time is I actually have everything go to uppercase. And I do that intentionally just so that we know that it worked, that we actually took those things. And sometimes I like my reports to have those column headers anyway with the uppercase formatting. But in this case, I'm just showing you what we did convert to convert. And when we're looking at the actual data tables, the column of what that looks like, we're referring right now to the element of that JSON that is called title. So we can see here title ID is respectively that and that. And you can see if we look down at company name, we see that the data came in as its company name, and the title I've already default made it be is uppercase company name over here. So we're going to go into the builder in a minute here and just look at how we can actually modify that and see what these display names are going to show up to look like. But at first, what we did several videos again, and I think this was in video 1.5 when we had sent our first report to our stakeholders, we have now actually gotten that report back. Well, it's a mock-up report because I'm doing this demo, but here we go. They've given our stakeholders have given us back a little hand chicken scratch report saying, do this, do that, do this, knowing what I know. So I've broken this out and zoomed in here for you about the hand scratch chicken that we're going to do and try to modify things. So what does this mean? How do we take this information and now use the columns builder to create a report that our customer wants? So when we look at this feedback, these are the changes that I can tell that will be in the column titles modification. So option one they want us to do is change the word company name to company. So we're going to modify this. Number two, they've requested that we change this calculated field name that came out of the JSON package from FileMaker, and we want it to say name. And then finally, their last instruction was change all of the other column names to be title case, excuse me. All right, so we're going to hop over to the demo and we're going to take these 3 steps in action and show you how we modify column titles using the column builder. We are in the demo file regarding column titles. Let's hit quick start. As always, we are in our build and we have got the ability to search for data tables, but I'm on video 3.1 and we're going to duplicate this and work on our lessons. So let's quickly go ahead and duplicate this entire record and rename it, please. We're on 3.2 and we are going to call this one modify, or let's call it column titles, excuse me, column titles, and submit and close. So now we have a report. Let's just put 3 in there so we know we're working on this. This is our last lesson. We're on 3.2. If you remember from the presentation, our feedback was that we're working on the column titles in this lesson. So what we need to do is open the builder and go in and modify the actual displays up here. And if you recall, company name was one of them that we wanted to change, and we need to change the rest of these to title case and update some other things. So let's go ahead and do that. First, go to your columns builder, columns tab, and then to get into the builder, we hit this icon right here. Remember, if we've already done this in our last lesson, since we duplicated it, when we open up the columns builder, it's reading this data right here as its first initial load, and then we can still make changes to that right now. So let's go ahead and hit that. Okay, the presentation of the report has come up on screen. What we are asked to do in the column titles is basically remodify this. In the future lessons, we're going to keep going with the rest of the asks or the edits that the stakeholder wants. But for purposes of this right now, we are going to focus on modifying what you see on here. So the first request was to take this company name field and rename it just to company. Okay, simple as that. The next option was to say, we want to take the company full name last or first last, and change this to be name. All right, and then finally, the third request was to make everything else on here be title case. So let's go ahead and just take the time to do that now. All right, it'll be brief here, but let's go ahead and get all of this done, and then we will be set up to preview our report. And I'm taking out the underscore here because that is probably not how they want to see this. But let's continue to go ahead and edit our changes. And I'm just adding a space here. And we're going to name that state. Web, almost done. We're going to change this one since it says full name last first. We're just going to say on this one, last name, first name. And then finally, this zip code, we're going to change to zip. All right. We have just finally made all of our name changes to the way the report is, and they don't match here, but we can kind of see how they go back and forth. And all we have to do now is hit the submit changes and go see how that impacted right away. Okay, so hit submit changes, and it comes back to our preview, and we can see that all of the titles have been changed to title case. All the column headers are changed to title case. We've renamed company, and if we keep going over here, let's expand this widget. Last name, full name, zip. Name is here where we instructed it to do so. That's it. That's how easy it is to modify your columns. If you want to quickly look at what this looks like though, if we go looking at the original data, you can still see here when I built it, it has capital city, but now we've changed it here. Remember, if there's data in here in this side, it will overrule anything over here. And if we hit this columns builder again, it will open up to what the default is here. And I'm just going to go back one more time, and I'm just going to say full name here. And I'm going to go last first. So I can still continue to change it. And I hit my submit, and I go back. And if we look at the preview, it didn't like it. It does not like the fact that I added these parentheses. So I am going to just leave it like that and see what happens now. All right, now you can see that that was not an acceptable DataTables view, so I just modified it quickly right here. So that's the end of this lesson. On the next one, we're going to come back and talk about how we can hide the columns that the stakeholder did not want on this report.